I'm Gayle King, and to me, family is everything. Nothing more important. Nothing.
Hello and welcome to We Are Family. I'm your host, Julia Dennison, and I'm here with the author, journalist, and host of CBS Morning, the one and only Gayle King. Gayle, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
I'm so glad to be here. You're talking about one of my favorite topics in the world, so I'm so glad that I get to sit down with you.
And we were just talking about the fact that you were saying every age is your favorite age.
Yes.
Which I love to hear because I feel like, especially these days, parents are so burnt out, but we get kind of caught up in sometimes in the negativity of parenthood. And I feel like the more we can talk about the joy, the better. And honestly, having a 5.5-year-old, I'm loving. I mean, she has opinions, and those opinions can be challenging, but it's really fun.
But we like them to have opinions. We like them to have
Exactly.
opinions. You do not want a little Mouseburger girl.
Correct.
You want somebody that speaks up and speaks out. You know, before I had a baby, people would say, oh, God, get ready for the terrible twos, or wait till they're teenagers. And I realized you don't have to have any of those phases. You really don't. You start at a very early age. Listen, there can be rocky times, I'm sure, but it doesn't have to be. It's not a foregone conclusion.
That's great. And of course, speaking of girls, you grew up with 3 sisters, right? What was your upbringing?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest of. What was your upbringing like? Were you close growing up?
Yes, we were close. Listen, I'm the oldest, and my sisters tell me that I was bossy. I don't think it was bossy. I think it was just managerial skills. That's what I think. So I grew up in a house with 4 girls, and I spent my whole life saying, God, I wish I had a brother, and I wish I had an older brother, because all of my friends who had older brothers, they seemed to take care of them. They had friends that they could introduce them to, and having an older brother was very cool. So the whole time I was growing up, I said, when I have children, I sure hope I have a boy first, because I knew I wanted more than one, and I wanted my children to have an older brother. So I spent my whole life wanting that at a very early age.
So you always wanted to be a mom?
Oh my God. I wanted to be a mom since I was in 7th grade. And I had very specific ideas, Julia. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have the boy first, as I said, because I thought you should have an older brother. Then I was going to have twins, 2 years later, girl twins. Their placeholder names were Rusty and Dusty. Rusty and Dusty would have very long hair that I would brush every night, 100 strokes. And they would have the cutest clothes, and they would get along so well, and they'd have this older brother. I had it all worked out. That was my plan.
Oh my goodness.
So I wanted to be, and I can remember in 7th grade writing down very specifically about being a mother. I wanted to be a mom for a very long time.
So how was your idea of being a mom different from actually being a mom? Was there anything that surprised you about motherhood when you did become a mom?
I'm not going to say it surprised me, but I just know it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Your whole world revolves around this little creature that comes into your lives. And I used to marvel at, how do people go all day and they don't bathe? I so got it after I had a baby.
Right.
Because everything, number one, you're sleep deprived. Mm-hmm. That's something that's very, very difficult. And I used to think whenever Kirby would fall asleep, I go, well, let me jump down and try to get a nap too. And so that's how it happens. You think, oh, well, while the baby's sleeping, I'll work out or I'll clean the house or blah. None of that happened. When she slept, I would sleep. And, now I hear parents have this thing called sleep training, yeah, where they're sleep training the baby, because Kirby, my favorite daughter, has now had a baby. Mm-hmm. And she has very specific ideas about sleep training. And I said, listen, when you were little, when you fell asleep, that was when you fell asleep. This stuff, the schedule that they have the babies on, is fascinating to me.
Yeah, right. Yes. I mean, there's a lot of thought processes.
Have you heard of sleep
yes,
training,
absolutely.
Julia?
I mean,
I had never heard of it.
So, and I feel like it's one of those things that make you feel like you're failing as a parent over and over again because it's so dang hard. And then your kids, your baby sleep training never seems to work for me. And I always end up kind of like just letting my daughter in bed with me. But you know what? I've come to terms with that. I have a big bed.
Yes.
I'm a single mom. If she wants to get in bed with me, we can cuddle. How bad could that be? That sounds wonderful. And I enjoy it. So.
No, that's okay. Now, if she were 14 or 15, that might be some issues with you, Julie. I'd be thinking, Julie, are you okay?
Right?
But, but at 4 or 5, and listen, I think we have to give ourselves some grace because we juggle a lot of balls. We're going to drop some balls. And I say you pick them up and you just keep on going.
Yeah.
When my kids were coming up, I would say, I did not have one of these households where I want to be your friend. I had a very clear, I am the boss here. This is not a democracy. I do want to hear your opinion. Your opinion matters to me. But at the end of the day, I get to be the one that makes the call. And sometimes I would make what I call mommy decisions. I'd say, what do you think? And if it wasn't what I thought was really healthy or the right decision for them, I would say, well, I think that's good, but I'm going to have to call it here. I'm going to make a mommy decision.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be one of those parents where she and I, and I have a son too, we're best friends. No.
Right.
That's not. I did not want that kind of dynamic when they were little. Now it's different. No, it's
an important distinction. I think you can't always be your kid's friend, but that's helping them. Ultimately, you have to do what's best for them, and sometimes being their friend is not what's best for them.
And believe it or not, I believe kids like boundaries.
Yes, absolutely.
They like boundaries, they like rules, and listen, the kids don't want to disappoint you any more than you want to disappoint them. And I think they have great appreciation. They may balk at it and say they don't like it, but deep down they know that the reason why you have the rules that you have or the boundaries that you have is because you love and care about them, and that you really want to make sure that they're okay.
Right. So did I read it right? So you moved around a lot as a kid. You lived in Turkey at one point. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, of course. I lived in Turkey from 1st grade to 6th grade. Wow. Then we were in California. Then we were in Washington. We were in California. Yeah, I did. I never think of it as moving around a lot. That's so interesting. I just think this is just the life we were living.
Right.
So from 1st grade to 6th grade, I was in Turkey. From 7th grade to high school, I was in California. And then I went to moved to the East Coast. I was at University of Maryland. So I don't think it's moved around a lot. It's just that I didn't live in the States.
Right.
And I think that may be fascinating. But I didn't really move around a lot.
Have you traveled a lot did you travel a lot with your kids as they were growing up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think travel and exposure, if you can do it, is very important for children.
Yes, I agree.
And I think the younger you can do it, the better off it is. They should be exposed to worlds that are not like their own.
Absolutely.
So yeah, they've been travelers. They had their passports at a very young age.
That's wonderful.
They didn't know where they were, but they had their passports at a young age.
That's important, though. And of course, so you already had a hugely successful career in TV when you became a mom. How did you take your kids to work a lot? And did you feel like it was important for them to see you at work and working?
Well, when I got pregnant, the first time with Kirby, I was 31. I was a local anchor in Hartford, Connecticut. And, they don't like you to take a whole lot of time off.
Right.
But it was my first baby, so I did. I took, I took 3 months off, which was unheard of. Kirby was born in May. That's also a very high ratings period. She came early. So it's right in the middle of the May book, but the station was like, oh, this is great. When I know inside they were going, ah!
How inconvenient of her to come at a high ratings moment. Oh, funny.
What are you thinking? But, it all worked out. So, yeah, I took a big chunk of time off, and then Will came. They're 11 months apart. It's one of those things where you say to the doctor, I was breastfeeding. There's that old stereotype or that old fable that if you're breastfeeding, it's hard to get pregnant. Not true. And I was also on birth control and still got pregnant. So it says to me that Will was meant to be. And I can remember just being mortified, like, oh my God, I've just taken all this time off. How in the world do I go and tell these people, guess what, I'm pregnant again?
Oh my gosh.
How do I go and tell them that? And what are they going to think of me? And Oprah said, they're going to think that you are that you have sex with your husband. That's what they're going to think. And you know what? That's okay. But I was mortified. I was so, how do I tell them this after being off all this time? Right. And then saying, so after Will was born, he was born in April, also right before the May book. I came back very quickly, and then I took more time off because I felt, geez, I can't do this again to them. I can't do it.
Oh my goodness. And so do you have any tips for working parents? Because I feel like now more than ever, parents are feeling that burnout, and sometimes you feel like you are not good enough as a mom and you're not good enough at your job, and it's like you can't kind of win it either. It can sometimes feel like.
I know, and you feel pulled apart in every direction, and then you don't feel that you're doing anything correctly. You feel, okay, I'm not doing the mom job the best I can, I'm not doing the work job the best I can, and I think you just have to figure out, this is the thing, Julia, it's not a one size fits all. Everybody's got to figure out the plan that works for them. And I decided very early on, I am not going to beat myself up because I'm not at every single play or every single event, or I don't make my cupcakes and cookies from scratch, which is what a lot of mothers did. I was fine going to the grocery store and buying it and bringing it in for the class. I just wasn't going to feel bad about that. Kirby started walking, before she was 2, and I was anchoring the noon and the 5 o'clock newscast. And I remember my ex calling me because he was in law school, so he got to see it and said, "Oh, Kirby just walked." I videotaped it, and I said, "Oh, that's great." And I hung up the phone, and someone came and pet me like a puppy, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you had to miss that."
Mm-hmm.
And I go, "Well, I'm going to see it in 5 hours.
Yep.
She's still not going to be running a marathon."
Right.
And so when I see it, it'll still be my first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, I'm not going to beat myself up because listen, and first steps is really being generous, because it's a step, fall.
Right. It's a toddle.
So, yeah, it is. It's a wobble.
Yeah.
And so I thought, gosh, I don't know if she was trying to comfort me or if she was trying to throw shade, but I just decided I wasn't going to take all that in.
Right.
Now, I wanted to be there for the important things. In Little League, they have 50 million frickin' games.
Right.
And there were times I don't want to go to all the games, but I wanted to be there for all the important stuff.
Yeah.
I also thought when they were little, I wanted to be the first thing they saw when they woke up, and I wanted to be the last thing they saw when they went to bed.
Yeah, I love that.
That was very important to me.
I love that. This is making me feel better because my daughter is having a kindergarten poetry slam as we speak, but she's not even reading a poem or anything. So I was like, I'll watch the recording. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, and she's not reading a poem?
No, exactly. Like, yes. I'm good.
Julia, we're having so much fun.
Yep.
So you would go and you would just sit there and watch her watch other kids.
I think so.
What is the point
Exactly.
of that? And while we're at it, let's talk about these school events.
Yes.
They have the Christmas program, and I remember being there one year where the kids sang 6 songs. Is that necessary? I think if you sing a couple of songs, you call it a day and you move on.
Yep. I agree.
So a poetry slam, and my child isn't even reading.
In kindergarten.
Please.
I know.
Yes, in kindergarten.
Exactly.
I think I'm going to miss that, and you'll explain to her later if she even asks you.
Right. Exactly. Oh, right. No, I guarantee when I pick her up today, I'll be like, "How was it?" She'll just be like, "Good."
It was fine. This is the other thing. I didn't want them to think at any time that me working was a burden to them or to me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want them to think, "Oh God, I'm so sorry, I have to go to work, I can't do." I didn't want them to think that's what work was.
Right.
I wanted them to know I really love work, I'm happy doing work, and I think if you're happier yourself, you're also a better parent.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I never wanted them to think, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, da 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 da." And there were times if I had to miss it because there was something important at work, I could explain it in a way, but I was never, "Oh my God, this is so awful."
Right.
Nor did I want them to think it's either a choice of work and you, and I'm choosing work. That's not what is happening here.
Yeah.
But anybody who works, that there are certain things at work that you cannot miss.
Mm-hmm. That's the way it goes.
That's just the reality of it.
So were there any non-negotiables when it came to traditions with your kids when they were growing up, or things that you love to do? I know you talked about travel. Was there anything that you love to do as a family, like holidays or anything like that?
Oh, holidays are very important. I got divorced when they were 4 and 5. And so that's always an interesting dynamic because, the first weekend without them was very difficult. When they go to their dad's for the weekend, that was very difficult.
I'm divorced
I just got in the bed.
so I know exactly what you're talking about.
I just got in the bed and I was in the fetal position all weekend, and I didn't want them to know that because I didn't want them to know this is very hard. You're leaving. I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I wanted to so we would pack their daddy bags, I call them, and put fun things in because you're going to your dad's this weekend. Mm-hmm. But that was very difficult. But then you get into a routine, you get into a groove, and everybody adjusts. But when it came to holidays, the thought of not being able to spend any part of the holiday with them was very difficult.
Yeah.
So so I negotiated, okay, you can have Thanksgiving, I'll take Christmas, and then we split Christmas, and then he would come and pick them up New Year's.
Okay.
Or sometimes we would do half the day and half the day, depending on where we were living at the time. But that first, the first holiday without them, where you don't have them, is tough.
It's really hard.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But it is also, you can also get into a routine and not make it be the most horrible thing in the world. Because the truth of the matter is, the kids love their dad, the dads love their kids. Now, he might have been a crappy husband. I'm only speaking for myself, but he loves his children, and his children love him, and I never wanted them to feel they had to choose, or that they were slighting me because they had a good time at his house. I never wanted them to feel that.
I could not agree more. That is entirely my philosophy also. And I feel like that skill of being a husband and that skill of being a dad is very, very different. And my daughter's dad is the best dad ever. And he's not my husband anymore, but he's the best dad ever.
You know what we would do? We would spend their birthdays together.
Yes.
So we made a deal that we would spend their birthdays together. They got to pick a restaurant, and we would go to the restaurant. And they, whatever the party was, of course, we would both be at the party. And they got to pick a restaurant, and the four of us would spend that day. Would spend not that day, but that time together. Yeah. So they would know that we are here together to celebrate you.
That's good. That's so important, to just show that united front together. And
you have to. I see so many women who are so angry at him, and vice versa, that they use the child as a way to get back at the parent.
Yeah.
Never works. It only hurts the child. It's not hurting the other parent the way you want it to. And you have to get to the place that you love your children more than you dislike whatever your spouse did.
Yes, I think that's true.
And you have to stay laser focused on them. He or she may drive me nuts, and I can't stand them for whatever reason. But, my main concern is that we have this happy, healthy child.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit of a serious question. So you've talked openly about the fears you've had for your son as a Black man living in America today.
Yes.
And this is such an important topic that we talk about a lot at parents. I'd love to hear.
I still have those fears, and he's 34.
Right, Lisa. Understandable. How did you have those conversations with your kids growing up around race, and what tips would you have for other parents who are trying to have those similar conversations?
Well, listen, we lived in Greenwich, Connecticut, which is one of the most whitest of communities in the country. And my children is obviously looking at me, and their dad are children of color. And so at a very early age, with Will in particular, I would say, he might have been 10, 11, 12. All Black parents, I don't care what your income level is, we've all had what we call the talk or the conversation with our sons in particular, that, if there ever is a police encounter, you do exactly what they tell you to do. And even if you think it's unfair, do not resist, do not talk back, just do exactly what they say, and we will work it out later. And so, and I would say, your friends Kyle and Patrick do not have to have this conversation, because they are given the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
And in most places, young Black boys, young Black men are not given the benefit of the doubt. They are automatically labeled, they are automatically thought of as suspects. It's interesting. I just did a story recently with someone, and they were talking about Dylan Roof, who he's a young white guy who shot up the church in Charleston. This guy shot 9 people. Police knew what they were dealing with, and he is alive today. And you see the stories of unarmed Black men who haven't, in some cases, done anything, have no weapon, and they are dead. Dylan Roof is looked at as, he's troubled. Trayvon Martin, who was a young Black man who was killed in Florida, his 10-year anniversary is coming up, actually. He is dead and was labeled a thug. We have to wrap our hands about the reality of what we're dealing with in this country still. So my son is 34, and he had a incident. He's working in California. Someone had clearly broken into his office. He had them on tape, and he was calling the police. But it was at night, and I said, be very careful, and he said, I'm a little nervous because I'm trying to explain to them that this guy has been here. I don't want to be mistaken for whoever it is they think they're coming to see. I mean, just stuff that you wouldn't even think as a person who's white, that I even have to think about that. I think if you're a young man of color, you do have to give that some thought.
100%. We talk a lot also on parents that, white families have the privilege of wondering what age do we talk to our kids about race, and often black families don't have that choice at all.
No. I mean, I remember I was telling a friend of mine in Greenwich, a white parent, I was telling Will, I had the conversation, and he goes, she said, we have talked to Tommy about, being responsible and obeying the law and respecting authority. We've had that conversation. I go, Kathy, it's a different conversation. Because Tommy is going to be, if God forbid something happens with Tommy and there's a police encounter, he's going to be given the benefit of the doubt, and Will is not.
We talk a lot here at We Are Family and Parents about chosen family and found family and, creating your family. And you are famous, have this wonderful, deep friendship with Oprah, and she's clearly family to you. I would love to hear you talk a little bit about what your relationship with Oprah means to you and how she's sort of a part of your family.
Well, I mean, listen, we've been friends since we were 21 and 22. And now, we're 67. 67, she's going to turn 68 later this month. So, I've known Oprah before I was married, before I had my children. She's been with me every step of the way for any event in my life, and I her. It's funny, when Kirby was born, you're like this, Julia. She came to visit us, and she had a T-shirt on that said, husbands come and go and friends last forever. And I went, huh? I go, why are you wearing that shirt? I mean, I don't even think she did it on purpose.
Right.
Someone had just sent it to her.
Perfect.
Someone had just sent it to her. And so she just came bebopping over in that shirt. Now, that actually came to be true. But at the time, the point I'm making is we've been friends for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I call and talk to her about everything and anything.
That's so wonderful. I love that. That
She's
rings very true.
Definitely a big part of my family and a big part of my life. And now, she's godmother to Kirby and Will, so she's a big part of their lives too.
Yeah. And also it just highlights that importance of having strong friendships, I think, especially as a mom, and having that support network, because you can't kind of put everything on your partner and you can't put everything on your kids either.
Yeah. Women understand what this is. Women understand what having a strong friendship is. And I say, listen, I know a lot of people, but I don't have a lot of true blue friends. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to tell you, you only need one. You only need one. Somebody who you really know is in your corner, who will tell you the truth, who doesn't judge you, who supports you. So I think people, if you have a really strong friendship circle, and I mean a really strong friendship circle, consider yourself blessed.
That's wonderful. So lastly, you became a grandmother last year. That's so exciting. Congratulations. What's it like seeing your kid become a mother?
I could call up a picture right now and send it to you. I'm so nuts about this child.
That's so wonderful.
I'm certainly not the first person to have a grandchild. I realize that. But there's something about when you see your own child.
Oh my God, his eyes. So
I know.
Cute.
Julia, his eyes are gray-blue. And so we're thinking, are his eyes going to stay gray-blue? Kirby read something that a doctor said, keep him out of the sun, so he has all these little sunglasses that he wears in the sun. It ultimately won't matter what color his eyes are, but they've got this gray-blue color that is so wonderful. But what I like is seeing Kirby become a mother herself, and she's so good at it. And she and her husband Virgil are such great partners. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting, I don't offer advice unless she asks for it, although it's very difficult, especially during the sleep training. I did not understand that.
Right.
And I was holding the baby, and she said, could you lift up your arm? I went, oh, okay. Am I not holding the baby correctly? Oh, okay. So what do you want me to do? But it's because, they are such a tight little unit. Mm-hmm. And, this child, it's what you wish for all children, that they come into the world bombarded with love, mm-hmm. that and that everybody is so glad that you're here.
That's wonderful. And we ask everyone at the end of the podcast, what are your hopes and dreams for your family for the future?
Oh, is this the end of the podcast?
It is. I know. We've zoomed right through.
Because Julia, I thought you were going to. I have to say this because I wish people would help me with this. If I had to do a do-over in parenting, because I don't cook, I'm not a cook, So, my kids were raised on fish sticks and tater tots and, what are those called? SpaghettiOs. If I had to do it over, I wish I had done a better job with nutrition. You want to feed them healthy meals with all the vegetables and fruit. And what I learn is kids can learn to like broccoli just as much as they can learn to like a honey bun.
They can, yeah. My daughter weirdly likes broccoli, but I don't make a big deal about it. This is the difference. I try to not like make food emotional with her.
Yes.
So I try not to talk about bad food and good food.
Yeah. Or you could say this is really good.
Exactly.
This is really
you
good.
say it was really good.
Because you formed that.
Right.
You formed that. Kirby is course corrected. She's actually very good. Her eating habits are good, and I see how she feels about nutrition. And the other day, Will was eating something. I go, God, Will, why are you eating that? He goes, well, your fault. This is you started this. And I just thought, oh God. I mean, he's starting to course correct too. Fortunately, his sister always has a lot to say, but he had fried this and fried that and fried this, and I think he's starting to do a little better too. But I wish early on either I had gotten somebody to help me with cooking, or just made better choices.
It's hard. I mean, like at the end of the day, sometimes I know what's best. But, I'm working long hours and I'm picking my daughter up and I'm doing the juggle.
I know, and it's easy just to go through and grab something quickly at McDonald's, which we had done, or Wendy's or Burger King. But I wish I would have done that better. So my advice is for parents, please make sure your kids are eating nutritious, healthy meals. And you can do it, and it doesn't have to cost 2 arms, 2 legs, and a spleen. I think that is really important to lay that foundation early. If I had a do-over, that's what I would do. I would do a much better job with their nutrition.
Interesting, because it does feel like there are those lifelong long habits that you form early, and your opinions about food.
Yes.
That's a really good one. Well, I guess as a grandmother, you do get you don't exactly get a do-over, but you get to kind of reflect on the way you parented.
Oh no, listen, I'm very proud of the parent I was. I actually think I was a really good parent, to be honest with you, because I loved it so much. And once there was an article, we did it in Oprah magazine, my other job, years ago, and we did a story on helicopter parenting. And so I called Kirby, and I said, Kirby, do you think I was a helicopter parent? And she said, what did Will say? I said, I haven't called him yet. I'm calling you, and then I'm going to call Will. She goes, well, call him.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
And so, I know, I thought that was funny too. And then I said, well, what do you think? And she said, well, all I can say is, I hear choppers.
She's like, what's that sound? It sounds like a helicopter.
Listen, I will proudly own that. Julia, you'll be happy to know I'm very good at giving unsolicited advice, even now.
Well, but you said you've been holding back as a grandmother, so that's very impressive.
Well, it's not grandmother advice, just life advice.
Okay. I love that. And so hopes and dreams for your family for the future.
Oh, listen, I just want my family, we are very tight. We have a big vacation every year, and Oprah said to me, they were in their early 20s, and she goes, adult kids don't like going on vacation with their mom. I go, mine do, because we used to call ourselves a tripod.
I love that.
The 3 of us are so tight and get along so well, and now that Virgil is part of the family, Kirby's husband, we say we're a square. I mean, we really do genuinely like hanging out together.
That's wonderful.
So my hopes and dreams are that doesn't change, that we can still maintain the connection. Connection is very important. I say this all the time. We can have great lives, great careers, travel, do wonderful things, but at the end of the day, we are all going to be a trivia question. Even Barack Obama is going to be a trivia question. What was the name of the first black president? If you do it right with your family, you are never a trivia question. And so I would like this bond that we have to continue to flourish, and that, knock on wood, we stay healthy, number one, and happy. I want the same thing that everybody wants for their family.
Gayle, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. This has been so much fun.
Nice to talk to you. What's your daughter's name?
Esme. I call her Ezzy.
Esme. So is it ESME?
Yep. ESME. Yeah.
Esme, that's different.
Yeah. I thought it was different, and then there was a list of like trending names, and it was on it, and I was like, how?
No. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
So we'll find out how the poetry slam went later.
Yes.
cracks me
I'm
up.
sure she'll tell you it was fine.
Good.
Nice to talk to you,
Yes,
Julia.
you too, Gayle. Hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye.